Hello everyone and welcome to another Hackolade video. In this video I'd like to show you how you can work with Hackolade in the context of graph databases like for example Neo4j. I'm not just going to talk to you about Neo4j specifically, but also talk to you about this in a context of polyglot persistence where we have lots of other different types of data stores and data formats that we want to model for. Right, but let's start with Neo4j. I can create a model from scratch here, right? So I can just say, okay, I want this to be a Neo4j model, right? And you see all some of the other connectors that we have here. And then you can say, okay, I want to add a database, and inside that database, I want to add a node, and I want to connect that node to another node. You basically create your graph this way, right? Really very interesting. It will do everything that you want it to do. It will create the ER diagrams. It will generate the cipher for you if that would be useful. But most of our customers actually don't start that way. The way you typically start is you're going to reverse engineer an existing data store, an Neo4j store in this case, right? And say, okay, point at an instance that is already running, for example, an Aura instance that I have right here, connect to it and see what's inside that data store so that you can basically say, okay, reverse engineer the model from the data that is already in your Neo4j database. If I do that, it takes a couple of seconds, sometimes a couple of minutes if you have a large database because it does all kinds of sampling, but then it creates that graph diagram for you, right? Because it knows, okay, in this particular database, there were beer brands, there were breweries, there were beer types, and there were alcohol percentages. Very, very good, right? And same thing, it will generate the ER diagram and the cipher statements that are found based on that reverse engineering. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually save this model, right? I'm going to save it into a local directory here on my file system, but this file system is actually part of my GitHub repo, right? So this is really important. Why is this important? Because what you see over here on the top left here is an integration with GitHub from Hackolade that allows you to store these files, not just on your local file system, but immediately into your GitHub repo. So here we go. This is beer graph v1 that I'm storing, and I'm committing and pushing this directly into my GitHub repo, right? So that here now, when I go back and look at the history, right, I have my version 1 of the beer graph available not just for me, but for all of my colleagues. This also means that I can manage the differences, right, the changes that are happening on this beer graph through GitHub. So for example, if I now say, well, I'm going to create another relationship inside my Neo4j database, and this relationship is, for example, a similarity relationship, right? Great. If I save that again, then that's a change in my data model inside my Neo4j database. Well, I want to commit that to my colleagues as well, right? So there's a beer graph v2 that I'm pushing into the repo now. What's cool about it is that not only is this now versioned and it's available to all of my colleagues for collaboration, but I can also use this for model comparisons, right? So I have v1 here, v2 there. Why don't I compare what's the difference between those two models? Indeed, we see here that there's a similarity relationship that was added. We can generate a delta model if we want to. This is a formalization of the differences between those two models, but we can also just work with this as is now. Great, so now I have a Neo4j model. You can use this in all kinds of different ways, but what I'd like to show you is how you can also use something a little bit more powerful, which is these polyglot data models for generating something like a Neo4j data model. A polyglot data model is a technology agnostic data model, right? It's a data model that is not specific to a particular technology, right? And that allows you to create derived data models from it that are technology specific, right? So what I have here is a data model that I got from originally from a Postgres database, right? It's a use case that's all about films and actors and DVD rentals and those types of things, right? But I have promoted that relational model to be a polyglot data model, so it's now technology independent. And I can use that polyglot data model to, for example, generate a Neo4j graph data model that is derived directly from that DVD rental relational model. So how do I do that? I go here and I say derive from polyglot model. I need to point to obviously the right model, which is this one over here. And then I say, okay, which parts of that polyglot model do I want to have stored inside Neo4j? I can select the entities and the relationships that are material to me, or I can just say, you know, give me everything, right? And create a Neo4j graph model from that original relational model, right? And we all know that this is not a perfect one-on-one translation, but at least we now have something to start from, and we can actually start iterating over that new graph model that we have derived here. Really interesting, right? Lots of things that you can do with this. Again, the cipher statements are generated here. And what I will also just quickly mention here is that you can also push this into your data dictionary, right? So Hackolade has an integration with Colibra. I will point you to some other resources related to this as well. But you can basically push these data models straight into your data dictionary so that the data dictionary is also always up to date. We can automate all of this using something we call a command line interface, that is fully integratable into your CI/CD pipelines, into your GitHub pipelines, or whatever you use for that. Great. I hope this was useful. I'm trying to keep this short, and I would welcome any questions that you might have about this, and then look forward to engaging with you more to use Hackolade for your Neo4j and other polyglot data modeling tasks. I wish you a wonderful day and look forward to speaking to you soon.